Hey, hi, hello, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm kicking off one of my favorite videos to do, and that's where I pick out a few booktubers and read some of their favorite books from their best books of 2022 lists. I will say doing this video can either be great or really awkward. Like, what if I read one of their best books and I hate it? Uncomfortable. Awkward. Yikes. Now, the three booktubers that I picked out. First up, we've got TheBookLeo. He has become one of my favorite booktubers in such a short amount of time. His channel is focused on fantasy books, and I swear he's gonna be the one to get me back to fantasy. He recommends so many books that sound amazing, and he reads manga, and his channel has just become like a comfort channel for me. I always know that I'm gonna enjoy a TheBookLeo video. Next, I've got Cindy from With Cindy. Cindy is my chaotic, sassy queen. I read one of her worst books of 2021 in a video last year, so it only felt right to read one of her favorite books from 2022. And finally, I've got TheBookLeo, whose channel is just like the most chilled out place on the internet. Like, you want the chill vibes, go to TheBookLeo. I haven't listened to any of their reviews for the books that I chose from their list, just because I don't want their thoughts to in any way influence my own thoughts. But I'm going to be starting off with one of the books from TheBookLeo's list, and the book that I chose from his best books of 2022 list is Spinning Silver. I just dropped a library book and I feel really bad. I have no idea where this lies on his favorite list, but it's one that I've been wanting to read for a long time. So is it cheating for me to choose this one? Maybe. But it's my channel and I do what I want. Let's talk about what it's about. In this book, we follow Miriam, whose family is in the moneylender's business, but her father's inability to collect his debt has put his family in poverty. Why am I pointing so aggressively? That is what I would like to know. Miriam sets out to reclaim what is owed to her father, and she gets really good at this, like too good at this, and she ends up catching the attention of these magical beings who want her to basically turn silver into gold, to spin silver into gold, spinning silver. And I believe this leads her into a bit of a rough spot. I don't know what the rough spot is going to be because I haven't read it yet, but something's telling me that it's not going to be good. Miriam's going to find herself in a bit of trouble, in a bit of a rough spot. I think a big reason why this one intrigues me is because it's a standalone. And I love standalones. I love not having to commit to a series. And we need more fantasy standalones. Or I just need to be recommended more fantasy standalones. Because I'm sure that there's a lot out there, but I just am oblivious. So if y'all could fill me in, if you could all erase my obliviousness and open my eyes to more fantasy standalones, that'd be amazing. Recommend me some down below in the comments. I'm all for a one and done deal. Anyway, time for reading. Spinning silver. We're like spinning right into my heart. Because that's exactly what this book did. Is it perfect? Not necessarily. I have my complaints. I'll get to that part in a sec. Let me have a little gush fest first. Welcome to the gush fest. Let's gush it out. This hit all the right spots. It hit the fairy tale vibes because it is already a loose retelling of Rumpelstiltskin. Rumpelstiltskin? How do you say that?
Rumpelstiltskin.
Rumpelstiltskin. It's a loose retelling of Rumpelstiltskin, but I didn't know that till after reading it, and I also don't really know that much about Rumpelstiltskin. Obviously, I don't know that much about it because I can hardly even say it, but it's a very loose retelling, apparently, loosey-goosey. The tone of the writing, the atmosphere, and the characters just all play such a big part in making this a banger of a book. Every little bit of it, in every little way, is magical. The characters in general were just built up in this really great way. Like, you come to understand each and every one of them. You understand their motives. You understand their drive. You just get the characters. And the way she writes the atmosphere. She does it in such a stunning way, in a way where it's like so vivid and so easy to like understand the visuals of the world. Like, fantastic! Oh my god! The characters showcase so much strength and power throughout the story. I just love seeing them continue to find it within themselves to keep on going. The female characters carry this book on their back, and to that I say, slay, slay, slay. Okay, like I said, I do have some critiques because I can't just love something. I have to critique it. I have to find little bits that aggravate me. I'm sorry, I still loved it, but just a few things. First up, I felt whiplash when it came to the perspectives. This does that thing where it does not explicitly say who you're reading from, so you kind of have to pick up on clues and figure out who it is exactly that you're following. And my only other complaint is that there were times when this book kind of dragged a bit for me. I was just waiting and waiting for things to giddy on up, and sure, they did giddy on up at some point, but I had to wait in the waiting room while the author was giving birth to those giddy up moments. Other than those two things, banger of a book! Would recommend if you're looking for a book that will give you all the fairy tale vibes you need. Spinning Silver. It's the book for you. Now let me watch Patrick's video and compare my thoughts with his. First up, he said it's one of his favorite standalone fantasies, and he was surprised by that after hating Uprooted by the same author. I can totally see why. I know that I had a few complaints because I'm annoying. But when I think about it in terms of being a standalone, standing on its own, not a series, trilogy, duology to back it up, it really does a fantastic job of standing on its own. It doesn't need training wheels, it doesn't need to go further than these pages, and it doesn't need book 2, book 3, book 4 as padding. And I really appreciate that, specifically as somebody who just cannot commit to series. To have a book that just stands alone, I really appreciate appreciate that. Now I'm so curious about the uprooted slander though. Maybe I need to read that one just to find out. Oop! Number 2, he liked how the characters were presented through their first person perspective. I definitely see that as a positive too. I just wish there would have been more distinctive breaks between the perspectives. Like, this person is speaking now, this character is speaking now, Miriam speaking, instead of me actually having to use my brain. Using your brain while reading? Who wants to do that? What a pain! And 3, he loved the seasonal descriptions, just kind of the overall atmosphere and how it felt like winter. Like, reading this book, you could feel the chill coming from the words. In general, I feel like Novik knocks it out the park when it comes to her atmospheric writing. It was probably one of the more stronger aspects of the story. Well, I guess she kind of does a lot of things right, like characters, plot, atmosphere. She does a really good job. Overall, it was a really good book. But I could fully grasp like the environment and the aesthetics. It was very easy to picture and also like beautiful to picture. Like the way that she writes kind of the visuals within the story, fantastic. Solid, solid, solid. Next up, I'm reading one of with Cindy's best books of 2022, and the book that I chose from her list is House of Hollow. I opened up the library book when I came home from the library just to see what the description was all about, and I gasped because I thought that there was a smushed ant in this book, but it just turns out it's part of the design. This book is about these 3 sisters, the Hollow sisters, who at one point in their life went mysteriously missing. And when they came back, they had no memory of what exactly happened to them. But their appearances have started to change, their eyes have started to turn black, and their hair has been turning white. We then jump into the future, and one of the girls has gone missing again. So we follow the other 2 sisters who are trying to track down their sister through these clues that she's left behind. But as it turns out, they are not the only ones looking for her. I'm very intrigued by this book's description. I feel like it sounds really interesting. Even though the description is kind of vague, I kind of prefer that anyway. The cover leads me to believe that the girls get infested with flowers and bugs. We'll see. Time for reading. I read it and wow. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. These are good wows, by the way. I was not expecting this book to be as unnerving as it was, but it brought on the creepy weepies. It's a fantasy horror, and it executes it in such an excellent way. And by excellent, I mean it brings on the creeps. It went into much more of a grim place than I was expecting it to. It's almost like a fairy tale, but very ominous, very spooky, very dark and gritty, very, very, very. I guess that's what they call like a grim fairy tale. That's kind of the vibe. That's basically the place this book falls into. Both just in how the story is written and in the overall content of the book. Those two brought together put it in this like very sinister place. And I loved every bit of it. Oh my god. I was enamored the whole way through. It was hard to put down. And I really don't have any complaints. Like, I'm sitting here having a hard time thinking of anything that I even want to critique when it comes to this book. I'm sure there is something, but my brain is like, nothing, nada. Nope. I just want to sit here and like praise its greatness. I bow down to you, you masterpiece. The characters add such a unique layer to the story because they all have such different and specific personality traits that end up setting them all apart. They are sisters, so they do have that kind of sisterly connection, but for the most part, they all stand on their own, and I so appreciated that. The atmosphere, though, like... The author nailed it when it came to her writing style and building up the imagery. It's dripping in this haunting vibe. It delivers in terms of the descriptions to a point where you just can't help but feel a sense of unease. The pacing, beautiful. The plot, fantastic. Thrilling, chilling, and fulfilling. I'm definitely going to be picking up my own copy of this book because I enjoyed it that much. Now let me compare my thoughts to Cindy's. I watched Cindy's best books of 2022 videos, so let's go over her thoughts. First up, she just said it was really addicting to read and she read it in only 2 days. Yes, yep, yes, yep, yes, this. It's one of those books that hooks you right out the gate, and then it just has this like magical pacing to it that makes it really easy to read for long periods of time without even like realizing you're reading for long periods of time because of the fact that it's just like presented in such an engaging way. Like it's one of those books that's just hard to put down. Then she said she loved how it was grotesque and then it was also like aesthetically pleasing at the same time. I agree. I feel like the author just found like the perfect formula for making it both creepy and then also like weirdly aesthetically pleasing. It's a weird formula, but it works. Like, she makes it work. I feel like she just does a fantastic job of making everything like hauntingly beautiful. And then number 3, she loved how disturbing and strange it was. Same. Some of the things that go down are incredibly weird. Like, don't get it twisted here. Some of the things that develop definitely had me like taken aback a bit. But again, it's done in a way that just works. It clicks. It makes sense. I feel like Cindy and I are for sure on the same page when it comes to this book. And for me, it's definitely a new favorite. Like, I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, which I don't give that often to books these days. And it's one of those books that I'm already compelled to read again. Like, I'm so tempted to just like ditch my TBR currently and just read this book again, which to me is always a sign of a good book. My last recommendation comes from the book Leo, and the book that I chose off of her best books of 2022 video is Beautiful World, Where Are You? This will be my first Sally Rooney book, which I feel like is a big deal. A big D. And I say that because I feel like she's become this like massive author on bookish platforms, and I've just yet to read any of her books, and it scares me. It's intimidating. There's lots of hype. nervous. I feel a bit of pressure, but I'm gonna try to go into it with an open mind. In this book, we follow Alice, who is a novelist, and she ends up meeting this guy named Felix, who works in a warehouse. And I believe it's some kind of like instant connection. They just feel for each other and they run off to Rome together. Then we've got Eileen, who is getting over a breakup, and she ends up reconnecting with this guy named Simon, who she grew up with. And it seems that we follow the four of them as they navigate this beautiful world together as friends and romantic lovers. I have no idea what to really expect, but I'm ready to dive in and see what this book is all about. I'm boarding the Rooney coaster. Time for reading. Oh no, okay. I read it and I do have some thoughts. Thoughts on thoughts on thoughts on thoughts. I don't know if Sally Rooney is gonna be an author for me. I think I would like to try another one of her books and just like solidify the fact that like maybe she's not the author for me. But for some reason this one just didn't click with me. And I don't know if it was just this one. And maybe I need to give her another try, give her a second chance. Let's talk about the things that worked for me. I would say this is a very character-driven story. They were in the driver's seat going honk honk, I'm here to pick you up. None of the characters fall into a likable place, which I'm always down bad for. The messier you are, the more entertaining the book will be for me. They're all very messy, and that presents them in a way that makes them feel very real. And I have to say that while, yeah, this book wasn't for me, I understand the Sally Rooney hype. Like, I get it. I don't even think this is her most loved novel. Like, I think maybe Normal People, is that what it's called? I don't know. There was one that was like adapted, and I feel like that one has like a huge following behind it. And so like, I get the hype. I get why she has such a cult following. I could even like see hints of why by reading this book. And I think it really does come down to that kind of realness factor and the emotions and the situations that the characters are dealing with. The character work is hands down incredible. Like, I will give her that. That is something that she achieves very well. The characters are flawed, and she makes them interesting enough to want to live inside their heads for the length of a book. I feel like I'm making it sound like I really like this book. I guess that shows that I can still appreciate a story if it didn't work for me. Let's talk about where it lost me. Here I am praising the characters, and yet I have some issues with the characters. I feel like we were only getting one side of the characters. I wish we would have delved into more of their motives and why they were making certain choices that they were making. Hear me out. I wanted them all to go to therapy and have their therapy sessions be a part of the book. That would have opened the gates to go a little bit deeper with them, you know? And I'm nosy. I want more deets. And I feel like the reason I'm bringing this up is because a lot of the characters had side plots that were brought up but were never really explored. They were just like little bits of the characters and things that they were going through. Like one of them had to go to the hospital because of their mental health. And there was something else about one of the other characters that was brought up and I was like, why is this not being explored more? Like, why are we not talking more in depth about these things that the characters have been through? To me, these things that were brought up never felt like they were elaborated on, and had they been elaborated on, I feel like this could have been a banger to me. Then my other big thing, okay. I hate talking about this right now because I'm scared of you Rooney stans or people just being like, oh, your brain is just too small for books like this. And sure, yeah, maybe I do have a small brain. Now, I am all for books that do not have plots. I think it opens up the floor for the themes to be explored through conversations between characters. And that's sort of the case here, but I think that the plot that we did have just was not enough. It was not fulfilling enough. And you know what? I'll say it. I'll say what I'm thinking. Even though I'm scared to say it. Boring! It was boring! That's how I felt, unfortunately. Just like nothing happens. And like, again, I'm okay with like books that are plotless, that are just kind of vibes, that are just like character interactions and whatnot. But I still need like a little bit of something. Just a little bit of something. And I need the conversations to be maybe this is hard to talk about. I'm getting frustrated talking about this book because it's hard for me to say that like, yeah, I don't mind when books are just like plotless, and then have read a book where it was plotless and it just not work for me. But I think it's because of the way that the conversations and discussions were presented that made it kind of more on the boring side of things. I think something else that I really can't stand, and something that's become like a huge ick for me with books, is when you can tell what the messages are that the author is like trying to push. Instead of it being like subtle messaging and things that you can pick up on through like different actions the characters make or choices that the characters make, this one is presented in like a very straightforward, this is how I feel. This is the message of the book. These are the messages that I want the characters to portray. It reminds me of my experience with Midnight Library. That book was so preachy. Like the author was like, this is my chance to preach the good word. This wasn't preachy per se, but the messages that the author wanted us to receive were very apparent. And I just in general prefer like subtle messaging. It's not even that I hated the things that were being explored. There were so many interesting topics that were brought up throughout it. Long story short, because I feel like I've just been sitting here rambling, good writing style, interesting characters, fascinating subplots that I feel like should have been explored, and boring. That's my review. I'm gonna watch Leoni's Best Books of 2022 video and then come back and compare my thoughts. Okay, I ended up watching Leoni's vlog where she discussed this book because I feel like she goes into a little bit more detail on her reasonings, so here are her thoughts. First up, she says that she liked the book because she she feels like it focuses on the simple joys of life and also because of the simple bits of sadness we face as well. I can definitely see that perspective, which I know I called the book boring, but I also see how someone can see it in that light and actually enjoy it a lot more than I did. And then she also liked kind of the simpleness in terms of descriptions and how this book is also kind of like an appreciation for the simple things in life. See, I can see this as well. I almost feel like she does a really good job of kind of like romanticizing the mundane things in life. Like she takes these things that are just everyday life things that we often just like overlook and like puts a beautiful lens, a beautiful filter over it and just makes it more interesting in the way that she's like describing it and whatnot. And I definitely appreciated that. And I can see somebody like really enjoying that aspect of the writing style alone. Now I want to be clear, just because I didn't like this book and the book Leo liked it doesn't mean that she has bad taste in books. It just means that like we had a different experience with this book and that's okay. Also, watching her vlog, she was reading this book in a moment in her life where she was able to like really connect with the text. So obviously she's gonna enjoy it a lot more. So I don't want any comments that are like, oh, tea, shade, spill that tea. Like, no, we just had a different experience with that book and that's okay. Reading is subjective. We all have different taste, different things that we like within a book, and we just didn't match up with this book in particular. But I definitely want to read another recommendation from the book Leo in the future because I feel like she's got a lot of good book taste. And we have a lot of books that we both read that we both liked. So like, I feel like we'll align at some point. Those are the 3 books that I read from Patrick Leo with Cindy and the book Leo. I will have links down below in the description to their channels and to their videos. Be sure to go and check them out and show them some love. I always love doing this, whether I agree with the booktuber or disagree with the booktuber. I still think it's really interesting to read somebody's favorite book and then to kind of like compare your thoughts and feelings with them. I think my favorite one that I read was House of Hollow. I really enjoyed this book and I need to get a physical copy ASAP. That's it for this video though, guys. You guys should let me know down below in the comments if you have read any of these books and what your thoughts are on them. Do your thoughts align with my thoughts? Let me know down below in the comments. If you haven't read any of these books, then let me know down below in the comments one of your favorite books from 2022. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye, yo! I forgot the book in the other room. Of course I did. Of course I did. I just dropped a library book and I feel really bad. Bang and snap. because it is already a my neck. Okay, popped it. Oh God, this shirt is Wrinkletown, USA. Oh well.